Good evening, everybody. Matt Gear here for the Geek Pride cast on this Monday evening. With me, as always, we have my co-host, Peter Ray Allison.
Good evening, everyone.
And our special guests this evening, Ian and Paul from Antipoet.
The Antipoet.
The
You
Antipoet.
still didn't get it.
The Antipoet. Okay.
Good evening,
all right.
everyone. Good evening.
Right. So, gentlemen, who are you? What do you do? The Antipoet. What is it?
Well, we're maestros of beat, ranting, rhythm, and views.
Yeah.
As in, it's a poet that stands at the front of the stage, and in order to stop it from being really dull and boring, there's a fellow who stands beside him plucking a double bass.
All right. Okay.
That's pretty much it, really. That is the entirety of the act.
Yeah.
Can you add anything to that?
Well, there's a little bit of kind of, there's building on stuff, isn't there? And I build into it, and then you take it away.
You generally insult me. We wear hats as well. That's interesting.
Yeah, you were wearing a pretty amazing steampunk-esque aesthetic when you before you came on, and you've taken it off. I thought
Yeah, the laptop's sitting on it now.
Right, okay.
We're trying to raise our eye level a bit.
Right, I see.
It hasn't worked. It's still exactly the same as it was.
Useful hats.
No, it's fine. You're fine.
So
He looks like he's got hair, doesn't he?
It's very carefully
where
angled.
did that Antipoet come from? What was the foundation for it?
The foundation for that.
Stabbing pub, mate.
It was playing at the Stabbing Pub. We met at a place called, well, it wasn't actually called the Stabbing Pub. It was the Flint Cottage in High Wycombe in about 2007, wasn't it? 2007, 2008. And we don't look that hard. So and this place was known for its stabbings. And we just trying to make the act, which was really just a poetry act with a bit of bass behind it, look a bit harder. So we called it the Antipoet. And it stuck. Yeah.
Yeah. So it started off as an open mic. It's an open mic night where I would sort of get up and say to anybody, "Do you want some bass on that?" Because that's the thing I do. And Paul came along with his poetry, which he's used to reading there, and mainly because the person who organised.
Oh, she hates poets.
She hated poetry.
Yeah.
So Paul would every week insist on coming on and doing poetry. And then one week, Paul sent me a text message. Actually, sent me a text message with a poem, and said, "Can you give us a bass line for that?" So it wasn't even read; it was just the words on the text message. So I came next week after making up a bass line for it, gave it to three other guys who were on stage, and we just jammed it. And that was the first time the Antipoet. It wasn't the Antipoet because there was other people on stage as well, but that's the first time we performed together. And then Paul thought, we could do something with this. It's a little bit different. It kind of worked.
The thing was, I was out there doing poetry, and I write quite a lot of the stuff. Too much, really. And if you're writing a lot of poetry all in one go, it tends to end up having the same sort of meter, the same sort of rhythm, and the same sort of rhyming structure. And then it gets a bit dull it gets duller for the audience than poetry generally is. And I thought, if we can put a bit of different rhythms behind that. So if I get somebody who can do perhaps in a different time signature, in a slightly different register, then it's going to make my poetry more interesting. I could possibly have just sat down and written stuff that was more interesting, but I thought, no, stick to your guns, Paul. Do the same old shit you normally do, but get somebody to put some rhythm behind it. So that's really where it started. And really, the intention of the act in the first place was just to piss off one single person. And that was, 14, 15 years ago. And we're probably still pissing her off, actually. But
Well, I was going to ask, did it work?
we found a lot more people to do it to in the meantime.
Well, the first question is, did it work? Did it piss them off?
Oh, God, yeah, every week. We started there. We started there doing it in that pub, and poetry in an open mic in a pub that is mainly for musicians is a bit of a lost cause. In some ways, it can break the evening up and make something else happen that people aren't expecting, but it really is not the ideal home for it. So once we discovered that what we were doing actually worked, and it does work, doesn't it?
It does.
It does work. It once it was going, we decided to take it further. Now, unfortunately, what we were doing didn't fit anywhere. We if we went to try and do the poetry circuit and gig with the other poets, the proper poets, as it were, they would say to us, no, you can't do that here, because what you're doing is technically not poetry, it's music. Go and try and play at a music gig. So we'd go and ask the music venue, could you put us on? They say, no, because what you're doing is technically comedy. Why don't you go and try a comedy club? So we did. We tried a comedy club, and they said, but what you're doing is poetry, mate.
So you've fallen down the crack. You've fallen down the cracks of.
So we were just stuck. What do we do? So what we decided to do, we decided we can't be the only artists out there who are having this kind of a problem. There's got to be other people who don't fit into mainstream entertainment, but are doing something that at least they themselves think is quite amusing and quite entertaining. Let's see if we can find some, band it together, and then we'll put on a showcase gig and show people that we're not all rubbish.
And it gives us a regular gig.
It gives us a regular gig. So that's what we did. We set up. We decided if we can find maybe 4, perhaps 5 other acts that are doing something in a similar vein, and perhaps put that on maybe 4 times a year. That was the plan, if you remember.
4 times a year.
Yeah, so we actually booked the Poetry Cafe in Betterton Street in London 4 times for that year. That was 2009.
Yeah.
By the end of that year, we'd got 300 acts on our books.
Wow.
And we were doing it, 2-3 times a week.
Wow.
And that ran for, that was an organisation we put together called Rants, the 2 of us and our manager Donna together, and that ran, what did we do that for 7-8 years like that, until it drove us completely batty. But the original acts that we got together, plus loads more people as well, had used that as a springboard, and we were able to invite people along to say that this is what these weirdos do, book them for something else. And so many did, and even just one off the top of my head, Athena has had her own Radio 4 show since, and appears on Mock the Week and stuff like that.
She was on News Quiz.
Was she this week? I missed that. But yeah, she wasn't the only one. There are lots of those acts that we booked in those days have gone on to do other things and left us behind. So that was the genesis of it. That's how we started. But it worked for us as well, because we've then gone out and done a lot of gigs that we would never have done before. And now we're no longer shackled to trying to find a poetry venue that will have us, because we do poetry gigs, comedy gigs, music gigs, cabaret gigs,
weddings, funerals.
Yeah, we've done a few funerals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. And the other thing about us is all these stories are absolutely true.
Are they? Yes, they are.
They are. Yeah. So you told me they were.
I mean, now at the stage you're at, are you invited to poetry gigs? I mean, what's been the changeover?
We do. We haven't done a proper poetry gig for quite some time.
Well, no, we did get invited to one this year.
Did we? What was that?
Yeah, Glastonbury.
Oh, Glastonbury. Yeah,
wow.
that's a proper
that's a big thing, isn't it? Really.
And we turned it down.
You turned down Glastonbury.
We turned it down because we've done Glastonbury Poetry Stage 6 times on the bounce.
Right.
And
apart from the COVID years and the fallow year, but if you exclude those, it was consecutive.
Yeah, we did, and it's a good gig to do. It's just we felt we'd done what we needed to do there, and hundreds and hundreds of people from all over the world, poets, apply to the poetry stage at Glastonbury every year, and it's a bit unfair if one person stays there all the time and just does the same old stuff.
I mean, we're the warm-up act.
Yeah.
So we did kind of, we did kind of make a place for ourselves. We did the 2 repeats, so they book you and they'll get you back a second year, and then they're kind of reluctant to book you again, which is fair.
And that's how it should be.
Gives other people a go. But we kind of created this position of for ourselves of being the warm-up act. So we would go on half an hour before the stage opened. You can imagine at 12 o'clock on any morning at Glastonbury, a poetry tent is not the most full and thronging environment you're going to find. It might have a few people that are still asleep from the night before, but it was our job to go in and wake everybody up, get people into the tent, and we did. We created some really leery pieces.
We're very loud, you see, because of the double bass. We're loud and we can be quite offensive, and that does tend to bring people in thinking, what's this then? What's going on here? Yeah,
trombone kazoo and
my trombazoo. Yeah, that brought me in. So we that was the only poetry gig we've been offered this year, and the reason being, what we've found over time is that it's nice to jump genres and jump tracks. So when we first started getting offered comedy gigs, we did a lot of that for a bit to try and get that under our belt. In the last couple of years, we've been offered steampunk and sci-fi convention stuff, which is not something we'd ever done before, but it was something we thought would be great to do. Let's see if we can do that. So that involves changing the set a little bit, writing some new pieces to fit in with that kind of thing. Some people used to say that we were, book them anti-poets, that we'll have them, the steampunky blokes. And we don't know what the hell that is. What's that all about? We honestly didn't know. And so we looked it up and we thought, actually, that looks good. I fancy a bit. And we already had the hats, Yeah. So we just shifted over. And the great thing, really, about shifting genres like that is that if we'd have done Glastonbury this year, rather than going and doing Lincoln Steampunk, at Glastonbury, we'd only have sold our newest CD and the newest book, because they've all got them from last year. Whereas by doing one we hadn't done, suddenly we've got 8 CDs to sell, and several books. So we got to think about those sort of things, because
you could say in a less mercenary way, it was a whole new group of people that.
Let's say that. We'll say that.
Heard us before, and it was enabling us to touch a lot more people with what we do.
You can't touch people anymore.
Oh, no, you can't do
that. How many poets involve music in their performance? I've never seen it before.
A lot more since we started. Put it that way.
No, there aren't many. There are some. I mean, it's not a new thing. You can go back to the 50s and the 60s, the beat poets, the beat poet generation. You would often have a sax player playing, or you'd have some really irritating person on the side of the stage playing some bongos, that sort of thing, just to give something some rhythm or piano. I've seen what's his face, Tim Minchin doing poetry with a piano behind it. And it's great, adds another dimension to it. But there weren't a lot doing it before we did it, because we looked to see. We didn't want to start jumping around doing something that somebody else is already doing better. So we had to look around, and nobody was doing what we were doing then.
Yeah, there was that one we saw at the first Glastonbury that we did.
What was he doing?
Was that lady?
What
was her name? We did. We went and see. Can't remember. She was in one of the Block 90 type things. Anyway, so there were a few out there doing it.
Yeah, there's a few.
But not in the same way as we did. Not cut right back to being a poet and a double bass, and that being all you get. There were more orchestrations and that sort of thing going off, or full bands with, just speaking the lyrics over the top. But it's what we do is not just the poetry and the music that goes with it. They form something much more we're putting together, and it is an act. And we've spent quite a long time in making ourselves into this kind of mythical end of the pier act that you'd kind of find at the end of Southend Pier under a little sort of awning or something,
You could argue that certain acts that we've probably always assumed it's a band, they've had a hit record, was technically beat poetry. Ian Dury, for a start, he didn't tend to sing most of his stuff. Things like Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick and stuff like that, it's beat poetry. Some of the stuff the Stranglers are doing with Peaches, it's beat poetry. There's loads of things. If you look back and listen to it now, in retrospect, you think actually they're not singing that, they're speaking it. There's just some rhythm behind it. And I think it's a lot more prevalent than people would think it is. Because there's just the two of us, it's blindingly obvious what we're doing. But if you've got a full band, like the Blockheads was a great big band, all very well orchestrated together.
Absolutely.
And there's a guy at the front who's technically a poet talking over it. And it did a wonderful, wonderful job. It's one of the things that brings us together, because we're both fans of Ian Dury and the Blockheads. We've got very little else in common.
I've still got most of my hair.
Okay.
What a burn! Wow, do you want some water for that? Wow.
Yeah, it's just sort of disappearing from here and coming out here instead.
The ultimate comb over, mate, is what that is.
That being said, I have to appreciate the beard and I used to have really long hair and a beard that was tied in a plait back in the day as well. So
it's been done before.
Yeah,
I've told you that.
It impresses me. Though I could never see my beard I could never get, like, I've always wanted this big ass pirate beard. I've always wanted this man, but it gets a bit wispy in here, and it'll never go any sort of kind of like.
I can't do anything. I tried to grow it for like 4 months for theatrical purposes to actually grow something out of here. But wouldn't do it. But the bushiness of the tash and the
it's just
settled for Rasputin, didn't you?
Very impressive, very impressive. And my little sort of kind of rat tail was nothing to your mighty sort of long lions sort of kind of till that's going on. I had this small little sort of nubbin thing going on here, and I was like, ooh, when I was a teenager. But yeah, there you go. I was going to say the whole sort of the whole sort of poetry music thing does, because there's a lot of poets, and I see them on social media quite a lot. And to be honest, there was a guy called Mark Grist. He's like an English teacher, and he's got a what are they called? He's got a poetry.
He does some challenges, didn't he?
Yeah, rap battle. So they do a lot of. There's a lot, and to be honest, there's quite a few of them who do. They do rap battles, so they go in and they do, which is for all intents and purposes. I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, they do rap battling.
We had him on one of the early cabaret nights that we did. It was in the park near where you folks used to live. What's the name of that?
Oh, Casbury Park.
Yes, in Casbury, in the little tea shop there.
Yeah.
We had him and the guy, the young guy he was working with, and they were doing this kind of two-handed thing.
Blizzard, I think his name is.
And I think we then had him back again, and he just won a rap battle against contemporary kids, and he'd actually gone and won it, and it was quite something to hear him perform.
So
where is the line?
Where is the line
between poetry and rap and poetry and lyrics? It's a very blurry line.
I agree completely. They are forms of, they're all art forms themselves, and to be honest, like I really enjoy it. One, as much as I quite like freestylers, just the way they can just make things up, but just the poetic sort of canter, just I really enjoy, and it's something different. And so you've got a lot of these especially there's a duo, there's another two guys who do it as well, and they're really good. It's definitely poetry. You can tell the difference between it and the sort of the rap that's coming in, but it's like a breath of fresh air. It's something different, and it's really good. And I think that's why probably Mark won, because it's definitely it is rap, because it's it rhymes, but it's got this sort of poetic sort of canter to it, and it's just just amazing. And like maybe something you guys can get into, rap battles. There you go. Your next scene jump.
No, don't do competition. Don't do competition. There should be no competition in performing art.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of those problems with the poetry circuit, as we found right at the very beginning. In order to get the better poetry gigs and the better paid poetry gigs, they expected you to compete for that particular spot with these American slams, and we don't do competition. So again, if you're not going to do the competition, if you're not going to play the game, you can't have the gig. So another reason that we went out on our own and decided, well, we won't do it that way. We'll do it our way. And it took us a lot longer to get
Yeah.
recognised for what we did for doing that. But
Occasionally we'd get the slot in at the slam when they were counting up all the numbers, if you like.
yeah,
So in that little sort of 10-minute gap between the slam finishing and the results being announced, they'd shove the Antipoet on.
Yeah.
And that would be our gig.
Right.
So, we once again created that position for ourselves. Really.
Finding a niche.
Yeah, take what you can.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. Yeah. Well, we my band haven't done anything in ages and stuff, but I remember I used to hate doing Battle of the Bands and things like that, and we used to do a lot of, and it's sort of it. If you're younger, you feel like you can take on anything and stuff, but it was very much down to not to sort of, and I'm not saying we were like quite, we weren't a bad band, especially our later stuff was very much very it worked and it was musically sound. We had like our lead guitarist is absolutely amazing, like just Eddie Van Halen good, and we felt that it was more down to how many people were there, and because
it's normally how many people you can bring with you.
Yeah, and it was like, and I understand that they've got a lot of people, but it just tended to be bands who maybe weren't as technically proficient, and
it's always a popularity contest.
Yeah.
And that is the trouble. It's a popularity contest, whichever way you look at them.
Yeah. And so
I did a Battle of the Bands. Crikey, I think it must have been the back end of the 80s, and it was for cable television, and I was the presenter for the program, and I had to go on between the bands and try and chivvy up the audience and try and get them to shout for all the bands, not just the ones that got their mates in.
Yeah.
And I it was the real turning point for me with competition. I'd never particularly liked competitive arts anyway, but that was the turning point, because you'd got a steel band on the stage with all the pans, brilliant, really good at what they did. Then you'd have an electronic band on that was just synthesizers, again, really good. Then you've got a country and western band on, and then a punk band. Now, they were all perfectly competent. They would have had to have been to get that far into the competition, because this was the finals. Mm-hmm. So you couldn't argue that one was technically better than the other. But then how do you judge so many different things? It's not like two runners starting at the beginning of a race and they both trained together for years, and the one who gets to the end of the field quickest is the winner, and you can say, well, he's the faster. It wasn't that. There was just nothing you could base your decision on other than how many mates they'd got. And I just didn't like it. So we said all along we would never compete. Saying that, we did break that a couple of weeks ago, actually.
What happened?
Which I didn't do easily, but it was the only way to get a particular gig that we've been trying to get for the last 4 or 5 years. And they were only going to let us in if we did this competition. And after we did the competition,
they were, where were you? Where have you been? How come we don't know?
Oh, why have you never applied before?
For the last 5 years. You just haven't taken any notice.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is kind of what you have to do. But for bands starting out who haven't got the as many year rings as we have, as it were.
That's a nice way of saying it.
Yeah.
Those have got more hair than we've got.
Yeah, yes. That one could be. Yeah, in the right places. It's pay to play, and that is just evil. Yeah. It's giving people false hope of success, and they're making money out of it.
Yeah, we had one. What was it called? It's called Bodog Battle of the Bands and stuff. This would have been easily 2012, 2013, something along those lines. 20 so in and around that 2010s time. They were an American thing. They had this big sort of like like TV production. They were doing these Battle of the Bands everywhere in the world, and you had like regionals and things like that. But one of the big things about it was how many tickets you could sell. And it wasn't, so you got one thing was more people had to register to their website, so you had to get as many people. So it was like if you could get people registering to their website. Another one was how many tickets you could sell, and it was just like, this seems more like it's about. I understand you need to promote your own gigs, which is fine, but it seemed like it was more to do with how much money and people you could get into that, and then they sort of preordained basically who was going to win at the time. Not that we deserved to win, because there were actually some really, really good bands, but it was just sort of, I just felt like, selling tickets and having to register emails for people and going in and getting people to do this for you and stuff. I remember like spending all night getting friends and getting people to sort of add email addresses and stuff in, and it just seemed like it wasn't really about the music. It was all about sort of
one of the bands that I was with, we chartered coaches.
Yeah, we did the same with the odds.
To get people into Leicester Square, where we had a gig, and it was all on how many tickets we could sell. So we had to print the tickets ourselves, hire the coach to get down there. And I remember doing that. It's a venue that's not there anymore, but it was right on Leicester Square. And I remember doing that, and there was probably about 60, 70 people in this venue, and we'd worked really hard. Finished quite early, finished about 10 o'clock, and then we're taking all the gear out, and there is a queue of people all the way down Leicester Square, hundreds of people queuing in because it was a DJ set.
And
he's just playing
other people's records. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of quite soul destroying when you get like, but each their own. It's easily consumable. I think that's the thing about that kind of thing.
It's, you get a lot of, pop music is pop music because it's popular. It's easy listening. It's fast food sort of music and stuff. You don't get me wrong. I like some easygoing tunes. I quite like some obscure metal and even some classical stuff like that. You were talking about double bass. I went to see a Transylvanian double bass player in Matt and Fred's in Manchester. He was amazing. It was it was just really good. It was literally.
Did you have fangs?
No, but it was just like
the trick there.
It was just like a jazz band.
Really.
And our old drummer was he's in a sort of swing band who sort of, they're called what are they called? Swing Commanders. They sort of do obviously swing jazz and blues and things, and it's all about the double bass. And I have this thing about double bass. Yeah. This is really good.
All about the bass.
It's all about the bass.
With us with the double bass, he didn't start playing double bass. He hadn't even got a double. I don't think you'd even seen one, had you? He didn't know anything about double basses, and he was just this long-haired metaler type who hung around at the bar in the Stabbing pub. With a bass in front of him, saying to people, do you want bass on that, mate? Do you want bass on that? Until people got really annoyed and let him get on the stage with them. And I did. I let him get up because I thought it would be good. And it sounded really good with just the bass, but you had your low-slung Rickenbacker thing, didn't you?
Yeah.
And it sounded good, but it didn't look right. And that was the thing. If this act's going to work as a duo, it's got to have a silhouette. It's got to. And so I made him go and buy one and learn to play it and then come back.
How different?
And it worked, didn't it?
How different?
The best thing I ever did to you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I've had more work playing the double bass than I've ever had playing the electric bass.
It's something different,
and you're far better at it as well.
How different is the double bass from the regular bass?
Well, luckily the way the strings are tuned is exactly the same as the electric bass.
Right.
So on all the other stringed instruments, violin, viola, cello, they're tuned in fifths.
Yeah.
The guitar and the bass guitar and the double bass are tuned in fourths.
Yeah.
So you don't have to learn new finger positions.
Right.
It's heavier though, isn't it?
the way you play it is almost completely different.
All
The
right.
muscles you use and the physicality of it.
He's talking it up now. It's 4 strings. 4 strings.
You can get a 5-string double bass, you know, one of them.
You can.
No, don't go in down there. No.
Yeah. So it's familiar but different. I would say
It's cool
But,
though. Double bass is cool. Like it's just.
It's also, and it is a
Yeah,
much nicer sound
Yeah.
than another bass. But the thing with using the bass, I think, that has been one of the better things that we did was when you're dragging that into a gig, people think, oh, that looks good. That's going to be interesting. We'll just stay and have a look at them. Whereas if it was just a guitar in a case and somebody talking, it doesn't look so good. So there's that side of it as well. And the fact that getting into a venue is never quiet, because gigs that we do are either upstairs or downstairs. It's either in the attic or the cellar, and you've got to get that bastard thing either up or down, and then back up and down again, isn't it?
occasionally a spiral staircase.
Oh,
which
yeah.
is, that can be interesting.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And we have traipsed 5 miles across Glastonbury in the thick mud pouring rain from one gig to the next gig, dragging a double bass and his accoutrements and bits and pieces like your
wheelbarrow,
your saucepans,
my saucepans,
and all sorts of bits and pieces. So and up and down,
Edinburgh,
up and down the stairs of Edinburgh for the Edinburgh Fringe.
As we all know, Edinburgh is all uphill,
I'd love,
even when it's going down.
I'd love to take pity on you, but I'm a guitarist, and
We made our bed and we're lying.
Yeah, I'm a guitarist, and I've had many years of carrying a heavy ass PV head and then cab and then other people's PV heads and cabs up and down the most narrow stairs ever, and it's the most horrible thing. I remember we were playing a gig, and the venue we had where we had stored our equipment, the elevator broken, and we were obviously on the top floor, so we had to carry everything down the stairs, these really heavy things, and the singers would just literally rock up late all the time, so you never got their help with anything. They would just sort of turn up, whereas you had to carry everything around. So you carry everything downstairs. We got it in, everything had to go into my car because I was the only one with sort of a half decent sized car. Bring it in, carry it in, then the singers would sort of kind of rock up with their microphone and stuff, complain about the sound and blah blah blah, and then leave before everything was sort of kind of had to be carried in, and then everything had to go back to my house because they've where we stored the stuff wasn't 24-hour, so we had to sort of kind of bring everything back into my garage and stuff. I was just like, I just remember,
welcome to the world of bands, kids.
Yeah, I just
But
remember.
did you not work that out early on? Because I started off as a drummer, and then I realised that the drummer has to carry all his kit, so I got a drummer in, and then I didn't have to turn up too early.
I do feel.
And this is why I became a writer.
Yeah. It's like I like the drummer. Yeah, we've had some eccentric drummers in our time, and the guy who's in the Swing Commanders, he really, like, he's a very 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 good drummer, and he knows it. But he would buy the most ridiculously sized kits and things like that, and he was like really arsey about them and stuff, and you had to sort of like carry them bit by bit, so you were just doing double trips and things, and then having to carry your own amps and things in the pouring rain, and then it was just like, oh my god. So that's the one thing about gigging I do not miss. It's after a really late gig, coming back at like 2-3 in the morning, and then having to lug gear out of your stuff because you're not big enough to have roadies and stuff, so you're just doing it yourself.
And then counting out the £50 you've been paid for it.
Yeah, if that, you know, you were lucky to get that. We were just lucky to get sort of like paid at all. Like, I remember sort of being offered. I can't remember. I remember one gig in Wales, and we turned up. So we used to have a so we went through a period of we had like another singer from another fellow from Northern Ireland. Then he left for a bit because he had shit going on. So we had a female singer for a while, and she got us attention simply because she was a female metal singer, and so it was just like, it was different. She got canned off because of musical differences and stuff. So he came back, but the woman who sorted out the gig thought she was still there. And when we turned up with not one but two new singers, two fellas, she's like, well, where's the female singer? And then that 50 quid we were going to get that night was suddenly, have we not paid you already? And it was really hard to get that money off them at the end of the night and stuff. I was just like, it's like, and again, I'm not like, we were very much, we liked just playing because we were going to play and stuff, but it would have been nice to get some petrol money and stuff because it was like wheels, so Deacon Starker's wheels somewhere. And but she was just being very arsey about paying us. And we had to literally go, look, you did say 50 quid, and and she was just like, and we got the impression that it was because we didn't have this female singer anymore, and that's what she was expecting. But it's just like, well, that's not our fault, it's just what it is.
Absolutely.
So, Pete, have you done music at all? Because you look like a musician.
No,
I'm getting the musician vibe, but
no, I write short stories. I once learned to try and play the guitar, and very quickly realised I couldn't.
It's
a problem.
Yeah, there was one thing.
Sorry,
I
Pete.
just can't do the finger work on it. It just didn't sit in my brain, so I never could get into it. I like writing. I love writing. I like creating. Music, not a chance.
Let's see if I've got
Right.
some.
So do you write lyrics at all?
I did when it was in my grungy 16-year-old days, and then we very quickly realised they were crap. And I thought, no, I could stick to what I know, which is writing stories and making shit up.
It was writing lyrics, which is where I started, which got me into longer form stuff like short stories and then on to novels after that. But it was that love of words and playing with the words and trying to say as much as possible in the fewest words, which is what lyrics has to do. That's where it got me started. And I'm more than happy to sit all day in a room and just write and do nothing else, and then have to be dragged out to do the gig. But I can't play any instruments. I was a rubbish drummer.
You're all right with the rhythm as long as you're not speaking, which is a bit of a problem.
Yeah, I can do the rhythm with the hands, but I couldn't do the hands and the feet at the same time.
Yeah.
And I can't do the hands and the voice. And that was me with the guitar, is that I could remember the top bits and I could do the bottom bit. I couldn't do that at the same time. And yeah, it's I think it's part of the dyslexic part of me that won't let me do two things at the same time.
Oh, I'm exactly the same. Like I'm ADHD, ASD, and dyslexic, so it's like there's certain hand-eye coordination doesn't go well. So playing guitar, I'm an okay guitarist, but I will never be an amazing guitarist because you do need sort of like mental dexterity to be able to do things very well. Like I remember my drummer sitting me down, sort of like, this is how you play drums, and in my mind it's like, drums are going to be easy, and it's fucking not easy because you're like, you have to do this many hits on this, and then your foot's doing something completely different, and then the other foot's doing something completely different. And you're just like, I can't even get my head around one hand doing one thing, let alone sort of. He's like, no, this is a paradiddle, and I'm just like, okay, and then this is this, and then this is quintuplets, and I'm just like, what?
We talking about before about how easy writing the lyrics of poetry. Have you ever been tempted to write songs as well?
Oh, I have. I've written crikey hundreds of songs. I've written for several different bands I've been in mostly.
Cool.
Over the years. Crikey, I must have done 5-6 albums of songs over the years. I still go out and sing. As a singer, I will only do originals. I'll only do my stuff. I've never had a desire to go and sing other people's songs.
There is an exception.
There have been a couple of exceptions, but nothing big.
The Womble song.
I'll do the Wombles. Yeah. I love the Wombles.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple of exceptions I've done over the years, but I don't like the idea of doing covers. I like to do my own stuff, and I love the writing. I love the writing the songs still. I don't write so many because most of what I do these days is either poetry as the Antipoet, poetry on my own without Ian, because I do still do some shouty, ranty stuff on my own.
Oh, traitor.
And novels, which is what I do most of the time these days. But I did just rejoin a band that I played with in the last gig we'd done was in 2003 in Torquay, and we reformed this year on 5 rehearsals and went and played a big music festival in Italy to a stupid amount of people. And so, yeah, it's still in there. I still get the need to do it occasionally. And that was all original stuff at that festival.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, music's still in there. But and actually, it's still a good discipline, because sitting down writing a book, and you've got all day and nobody's telling you what to do, and you can keep on going and filling in all the detail. But it's very easy, as you would know, Pete, as a writer, then it's very easy to go off at a tangent and disappear up your own arse. It can be done. I'm not suggesting, because I've never read your stuff, but I know how that works, and I know you can do that. But coming at it, having started doing lyrics, you really have to be able to pare that down and get it across succinctly. And that's a really good discipline, I find, for writing a book. You write it all out, get it all down, and then go through it and chop it all down, sculpt it until you've got what you need to say without overdoing it. And so doing the lyrics.
I'm primarily a journalist, and one of the things, you have a very strict word limit, like 1,500 words to write about something, which, when you think about it, isn't much. You have to kind of get
nothing.
And if you go over it, no. And I remember one time I was asked by an editor to write about the Investigative Powers Act 2016, otherwise known as the Snoopers Charter. And I said, I know you don't like it, so just want a calm, succinct, reasonable argument. So I wrote 3,000 words and then cut out all the swearing. and then handed it to him, and he said, yeah, that's great, thank you.
So we've had a fair few writers on the podcast. What sort of novels? What sort of assuming fictions? What sort of type of novels are they?
Well, I've had 11 books professionally published up to this point. I've done poetry books. I did a book about how to survive the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. I've done books on how to perform to an audience without losing your bottle, that sort of thing. But for the last, where are we now? Probably about the last 4 years, I've been doing a series of steampunk novels.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because once we started doing the steampunk thing, I got very into the whole...
very good. Very nice.
Very nice.
Very into the whole background of it.
The aesthetic,
and I started reading stuff and thought, this is it. This is what I should be doing. So I've had 3 books in that series published so far. The 4th one comes out on the 7th of November with a big Waterstones splash, which we play at.
Yeah, funnily enough, it's one of those gigs.
Because we've done the theme tune to the book. So
write the theme tune, sing the theme tune.
Exactly, we've done it all.
What is the steampunk genre? I mean, what is it? I mean, is it science fiction? Is it fantasy? Is it something else? Is it a subgenre?
It's all that, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Steampunk, I mean, it's different things to different people, but to my mind, it's if you're sitting writing science fiction, you this is a generalization, but people would be talking about something that's either now that's futuristic happening, or it's set in the future. Whereas steampunk takes you back to the past and imagines things going forward. So it's sort of like your H.G. Wells and your Jules Verne stuff that was written way back, and they were working out what was going to happen in the future. But this is doing that, only knowing what's in the future and being able to mess with it, being able to say, well, we know what happens from this point forward. So if we were to kill off somebody, say, in the late 1890s, that we know actually goes on to do something important later on in the next century, what would happen? And then trying to imagine where it would have gone. So it's sort of alternate history as much as it is science fiction. I just love that idea of having to sit there and work it all out. and try and make it work in my head so that it will work in somebody else's head. So that's it for me. That's how it does it for me. But as I say, it's different for different people.
There's a lot of dressing up in steampunk.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of amazing outfits. Yeah. I would say if you kind of take Jules Verne look and feel, a little bit of Wild Wild West. You know the
The American version.
Will Smith film.
Will Smith film. It's got a lot of that in it. A lot of the Victoriana kind of look and feel to the clothes and that sort of thing gives a lot of middle-aged people a good excuse to dress up, I'd say.
Yeah, but it's punk based. It's very much based on the make and do, the do it yourself ideal of not going and buying something because somebody else has told you that's the fashion of the week. It's about having a look at what's going on and then having your own ideas and actually going and making it yourself. And that's the thing I particularly love about steampunk. You never see two people looking the same because they've all done it themselves.
Yeah.
And that ties in because, I mean, we both grew up through that era, but you weren't a big punk fan, and I was. So to me, it's a natural progression of the punk movement of the 70s. I don't know if anybody else feels that about it, but to me, that's where it's going. So
I mean, have you ever read The Adventures of Luther Arkwright?
Yes.
Yeah. Now that is very steampunk.
Brian Talbot, yeah.
Exactly, by Brian Talbot.
Pictures.
Yeah, and that was very steampunk, but that was before steampunk became a thing. And it's telling that he was reading to his punk, and still is very much a punk writer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That was, and it's all very alternate history again, and it's different realities and stuff, which is what the Luther Arkwright stuff was all about. Yeah, always wonderful stuff. And the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Alan Moore and Kevin O'Neill. Again, that's very steampunk.
Granville as well by Brian Talbot. That was very steampunk.
Yeah, I haven't read that for a long, long time.
Oh, really good.
Yeah, there's loads of stuff if you go through it. And comics-wise, that was a nice little slide in here. My book series has a comic coming out before the end of the year as well, and I hope that we can take it as a comic series as well.
That was another touch point we had, was both grew up with 2000 AD.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Right. Yeah.
So a lot of.
And again, in there, you've got a lot of steampunk stories that come through 2000, and there's another comic company, an independent that started up only relatively recently called Time Bomb Comics, and they do an anthology. Hate to say a bit like 2000 AD because it's not, it's their own, but a lot of the stuff in there is very steampunk comic, and each different strip is completely different. So it's not all just about Victorian people. It's not all just about the empire lasting longer than it did. It can be about anything, and I love it.
Who was it, Pete, we had on the podcast whose mother wrote for 2000 AD?
Oh no! And yes, base. Oh,
Galena. Yeah, Galena, another fellow Northern Irish person.
And Ian, the Antipoet seems to have gone quiet on us.
Oh, they've gone.
Wait.
Oh no!
Hello.
Can you hear us?
They're back.
Excellent. Yeah.
You're back.
Hello. No, we weren't saying anything.
Okay. Frozen. So your picture was
Zoom had squished us down into a nothing. Oh, sorry, Skype.
Yeah, frozen. Yeah. But yeah, she her mother, I think it was her mother, wrote for a lady we had on the podcast. Her mother wrote for 2000 AD. And did we have somebody else from 2000 AD on? Who did we have? We had somebody who did the 2000 AD conventions, wasn't it?
That would be Sue Hadrill.
That's it, Sue Hadrill. Yeah.
For the Lawless Convention. Yeah. You've also worked with schools as well, haven't you, as the Antipoet?
Yeah, probably shouldn't have done, but we did.
Oh, wow! This sounds like a good story.
There's a couple of stories there.
Yeah, I've upset a few kids. I didn't mean to.
Upset the kids.
We did this wonderful piece. This anti-bullying piece,
right?
And
Excellent.
it was from Paul's experience, and a very valid piece with a very valid message. And
Thank you, sir.
And we did this piece, and kind of finished, and
No response, was it?
yeah, no response, flat response from the room of 12-year-olds. And Paul starts going, surely some of you have experienced this. Surely some of you have experienced bullying.
Hands up, anybody who's been bullied in this class. And that sort of killed it a bit.
Yeah.
Come on, some of you must have done.
Yeah. Tell us or else.
We haven't done a school for ages.
No.
We did we did a special measures school.
We did a last resort school.
Yeah.
Which was quite something. So this really was the last chance saloon for your
Bit of a danger money thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was a friend of ours was janitor.
He was a school caretaker.
Caretaker, that's the yeah. So a friend of ours was a caretaker and got us into this gig. But we did actually open a library.
That was that. It was I was about to say that was one of the first things with Bard Aid.
Yes.
Where we went to this school. It was a special measures school. And we had this thing. If we went and did a school, we would do some gigs beforehand with our little group of misfit entertainers. We'd do the gig, and we wouldn't pay anybody because we weren't charging people to get into our gigs. Mm-hmm. So there was no money. But we would do a whip round at the end of the gig, and any money that was in the pot, we would use to buy whoever was our headline that month's books, so that they didn't go away empty-handed. They sold some books. So we would then take their books and we would mix them up with the people from the previous month's gig and so forth. And any of ours, yeah. And we would put all these in a box. And next time we went to play a school, we would present that to the school for their library.
Wow, that's a really good idea.
But because their schools had very limited poetry. It was only ever just what was curriculum.
Yeah.
And we were trying to encourage kids to write by giving them things that were not curriculum and things that had the wrong words in and things that they might pick up and think, oh, I shouldn't be reading this, but it would inspire them. That was the point. So we went to do this special measures school and we'd taken our box of books there and we'd said, we'd like to present this to the school. Oh, we haven't got a library.
Wow.
What, a school without a library? No, we haven't got a library. Well, let's build one. And so we got the gig because we used to rehearse in their music room when the place was shut. I don't think the school knew that, so don't tell anybody. But
you do realise the entire how the podcast works.
Yeah. I think you overestimate how many people this is going out to, Pete.
No, I don't.
Well, we haven't said which school it is, so they might not know. Anyway, we went and played sort of as a thank you for letting us rehearse there, even though they didn't know. So, and we took the books. And so the school caretaker, who was a friend of ours, he said, well, I've got a cupboard that the brooms go in. If I take the brooms out and we put some shelves in it, we can get all your books in and there's the start of a library. And that's how their library started. We went back again with some more some years later. And I went back there some years later. I mean, we're talking, this was about 2009. And I went back there some years later with a car full of books. And they've now got a dedicated room for a library, and we helped them to just stock it out completely. And that was the first library we built as Bard.
The first library you built.
Wow.
Yeah, the first. Yeah.
How many libraries have you built?
I bought a telephone box, one of these, only a real one, in situ on the side of the road.
Okay.
Just outside of Tring, Hertfordshire. And we went and stripped it out of all its workings and filled it. Well, we put a bookcase in there, repainted it, made it look lovely, and stocked it full of books, secondhand books. But we have a shelf in the middle at eye level, which is books that have been donated to us by publishers, many of which are signed copies, and lots of stuff that we've bought or been given from poets that either produce their own books, they're self-published, or they are such a small niche run that they're not really going to end up in Waterstones, and we stuff them in there at eye level for people to enjoy. So we bought that one. we then took over another one for a council in near Watford, who had a book exchange in their telephone box for years, but it was getting a bit tired and old, and so we took it on and did it up to match our other one. And then
couldn't get the door open and things.
That needs a bit of another repair, because the bottom of the door's come off, and I've screwed it back on. So and then bought a third one. No, the third one is owned by a pub near me, just over the road from where I live, and it's sitting on the forecourt, and it was used to throw your bottles and your crisp packets in. And so we cleaned that up, repainted it, filled that with books. So we've got 3 of these on the go.
Wow, that's really good. That's cool. That's really good.
We run, and then we built another library in an old dairy on a farm out near Quainton, which is, again, it's another special measures school, and it's on a farm. And they stripped out the dairy, and we shelved it all. We got some volunteers together to come in and paint it and put all the shelves up. And with that one, because it was a school library and it was a specific school library, I went round to lots of different publishers to get the right sort of books. I wanted to build up a proper reference library. But I also went to the lovely people at Rebellion who published 2000 AD. And said, what you got for a school library? And they gave me a whole car full of graphic novels, which was lovely, that I read first.
Just to make sure they were...
I had to check them,
proofreading.
In there. So, we've got... we handed over the original library that we built in that first school to the school. They run that now. It's nothing to do with us, but we started it for them. And then we've got another 4 libraries now that we run as Bard Aid, and it's non-profit making. We don't have any budget. We usually just do a whip round before we take on a box and make enough money for a tin of paint and an Argos shelf unit, and they're self-sustaining. They run really nice.
Day was quite entertaining, wasn't it?
The Great
Missing one.
Where did we
day?
Missing?
Isn't it Missing?
Where's that?
I thought that was the first one.
Long Marston. Long Marston Trim. Yeah. We always do a launch for them.
You had llamas and everything.
We had, we'll bring the alpacas out, and we had a couple of famous authors down for that one as well. Yeah, so we've had a lot of fun doing that, and that's something that keeps us busy in the meantime.
I really do like those kind of telephone box libraries, because, I mean, they're redundant now. Pretty much everyone's got a mobile phone, a smartphone that but they're still there, and so otherwise they're just going to get vandalized or whatever. So turn them into a little kind of book lending library. It's just perfect. We've got one in the next village over, and it's just great. It's just a wonderful piece. It's just a very, very punk. It's very punk.
I think so. Yeah,
I love that sort of. Sorry, carry on.
When we went to the first one that we bought to do it up, it had been sat on the side of the road, just back off of the road since the 30s. And it had been defunct for quite some time. And it had ivy growing up inside it and a tree growing over the top.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of people had not even noticed it was still there. And we turned up one morning and we started stripping the trees back and pulling the ivy out and painting it. And there's an infant school a few yards along the road from where it is. And we were there trying to put this, 2 poets trying to put an Argos bookcase together on a grass verge.
in the rain.
In the rain at 8 o'clock in the morning. And there were parents taking their kids to the school. And I was expecting these young kids to be saying, "Mummy, what is that?" And they were. Exactly that. "Mummy, what is that? Has that always been there?" And I was thinking, now the parents are going to explain to them what a telephone box was and how useful it was. And the parents were saying, "No idea. I don't know if it's been there for long." And we were quite shocked that the parents didn't know. And then when we looked at the parents' age, of course, we're ancient. The parents were young enough to be our grandchildren anyway. And crikey, the telephone boxes were gone before you lot came along. So there's no reason for you to know what it was. And I was completely blown by this. So I went away and wrote a book about it, which comes out later this year.
Well, it's a generational thing. I mean, early today, my youngest, who's only 7, found a cassette tape.
Ah,
He had no idea what this was.
no.
And we kind of
crikey.
so I can't explain what a cassette tape is. And he goes, "How do you play? Put in cassette player? Do we have one? No."
Aren't they supposed to be trying to do a revival of cassette tapes?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they did with vinyl.
With
which I think
vinyls.
is completely pointless because the quality of them was always rubbish.
Yeah.
So, and you know.
And you can't get them in the CD player in the car
You
either,
can't.
can you?
And at least
Won't
it
go.
gave you something for your Big Burrow to do.
Exactly, yeah. But no, it was a weird thing because obviously he'd never seen one before. And we've had the same conversation with the kids about, I say vinyls, like, go, what's this? Well, it's kind of a big CD, but double-sided. And you can only saw 8 songs in it if you're lucky.
Yeah, but that is it. You know, the generations move on and things get forgotten, and it's sad when things are forgotten, and especially these things. They were such wonderful things. I absolutely hate it when I see the lorry pull up alongside one and then take it away to be chucked into a reclamation yard, because they're just something that we grew up. They were always there. They were something safe. They were something familiar, and
it's almost a part of history as well.
They've got a wonderful history. Yeah. I can sit there and give it to you if you like.
Where my other half lives in southeast London is the building that gave the inspiration to the shape of the top of them, which is Dulwich Gallery.
Right.
In southeast London, there's a bit of architecture in this particular building on the outside where you've got this kind of curved shape at the top. There's 4 of them.
And was it a Gilbert Scott? Did he do that before he did the phone box, or did he just nick it?
I don't know the answer to that, but
we'll have to look into
there's
that.
something you can Google, people.
No, I'll go look that one up.
Yeah.
Emerald will be able to tell you.
Questions, answer them like hard too.
Yeah.
You won't win
It
anything
will
in
show
the
up in an Antipoet piece at some point.
It probably will, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned going to sci-fi conventions and doing the Antipoet. How did you change the lyrics and the performance for the audience? Because I assume you did that.
No, we did the same performance. We still play the same act. We just changed the set a bit. We've got some pieces that are sci-fi orientated because I'm a sci-fi fan. You are, to a reasonable degree as well.
Well, you had your little you had your little gaffer tape. You can say it because you said this before we came on air. What? How do you define gaffer tape?
Gaffer tape is like the Force. It has a dark side and a light side, and it holds the universe together.
Boom!
I love it. So good.
Yeah, we just looked at the set and thought, well, we will always do these pieces because these are the pieces that work with most audiences of that particular age group. But that's a bit sci-fi orientated. Let's stick that one in there. We probably wouldn't do that in a comedy venue or a late night cabaret. And steampunk, actually, we wrote new stuff. We actually wrote stuff in the same vein as we do, but specifically for that kind of audience. It just seemed to work. And when we go and do the steampunk gigs, that is a completely different set. We will bring in some of the older stuff as well, but it's nice because again, it gives you a reason to write new stuff. Yeah. I love doing the sci-fi stuff because it gets me into a convention without paying.
That's the only sort of kind of bonus of doing a website as this is getting free, getting free entry into conventions.
Exactly.
If that's spaced out the occasional hippie.
The first time we met was at Sci-Fi Weekender
last
year.
I love that.
Yeah, and I think you were performing as well in March this year as well.
Yep. I had my book. I was signing books in the main hall in the day, and then in the evening, Ian came and we did an Antipoet performance for a complete sci-fi crowd, and it worked really well, didn't it?
Yeah. Oh, nice.
We upset George, but that was all right. We covered that well.
How did you upset George? I want to hear this.
This is a thing with our stuff, and I think this is true of a lot of comedy. We've been doing this for, say, nearly 15 years. We've been doing this act, And over that time, sensibilities have changed in the world. And so there's stuff on our first album that we wouldn't dream of doing now. It was funny then. We thought so, and the audience thought so. But today you look at it and think, well, I'm not going to have somebody else tell me I can't do something. We're our own critics. And we know when something no longer is PC. And occasionally it just means a little change of a line here or there to level something out. Sometimes it means throwing that one away completely, retiring it. Fair enough.
That's mainly my job during the writing process, actually, is to edit.
Tell them where I'm going.
Censor.
But we met this great character at the sci-fi thing, who's an actor called George. And George is
of diminutive stature.
He's a short man, and there was this great, really funny line in one of our pieces about midget fights. Brilliant line. And I know we were supposed to change that. And so we'd taken that piece out of the set temporarily whilst I thought up of a better, perhaps less offensive line. And I don't know what it was. Something in my head said, do that one tonight. And I'd forgotten to change the line. And I could see it coming 3 or 4 lines before. And I thought, oh, shit.
Oh, no.
Right in the front row is George, and he's a what did you call him?
Diminutive stature.
Yes. And I've got to come up with something quick here. I've got to be one of these rappers that can work stuff out on the fly, and I'm not that good at doing that.
No, Paul always reads. We're both dyslexic in different ways. One of Paul's is he can write till the cows come home, can't remember shit, and so has to read.
I know exactly where you're coming from.
Read all the pieces.
And there it was, and that particular line was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I thought, it'll come. I know it'll come by the time we get there. And I just got midget fights. No, I shouldn't have said that. Now, luckily he took it particularly well, because I think he just loved the attention, to be fair.
He does love the attention.
He liked the attention. He's an actor, he's an actor. He spent all day sitting there signing photographs and selling them to people for 25 quid. He's an actor. He likes the attention. And I think we got away with it, didn't we?
Yeah, just about.
We've changed the line now. But that's something that happens with comedy.
Yeah, it's very subjective. I mean, George is a lovely chap. I interviewed him on stage at Sci-Fi Weekend, and he broke me twice. I did it once. We turned around and just cracked up laughing, because he's also, it turns out, a professional comedian.
Yeah.
What's his second name?
George Coppin.
Oh, okay. Right.
And we're chatting, and like, no, I'm professional. This is what I do. So I kept going. Yeah. And about 10 minutes later, we're talking about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and he just gave me this look, and you can see he was breaking up a bit, and he gave me this look and went, hi ho. And at that point, I just lost it completely. The glorious bastard. Love him to bits.
It was in the New Willow series.
New Willow, and he's also been in The Witcher as well.
Yeah.
And
yes. I think
you were in the same scene in The Witcher.
I think we've been in the same scene, but we haven't quite.
You were in The Witcher?
Touched base on. Yeah.
Wow! What a claim to fame! Wow! What were you in The Witcher?
You have to pause it.
You have to pause it, and then
if you see a blurry man in the background, it's generally him.
Yeah, this kind of, I do a good peasant.
All right, my because obviously Game of Thrones was filmed in, a lot of it was filmed in Northern Ireland. I think I know about 1 million people who have had sort of who have had roles. My sister was in the second series in Winterfell with some of her friends, and she's a chicken feeder. So there's a bit where they're walking through Winterfell, and my sister's sitting in the background feeding chickens and stuff. But there's a guy, one of my mates, he was the second AD. For it over there, and one of my other mates, he said if there's ever a guy with a beard on a horse, it's probably me. He's just like, that's like, so is that you? Yeah, is that you? Yeah.
Your most famous piece, obviously, is the Haribo guy from the advert. From the advert with the rock band coming off stage and going backstage and eating Haribo sweets, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's what everybody knows him for.
Yeah.
And very often at Antipoet gigs, people
Wait a
sit there
minute.
chucking packets of Haribo at his head.
They certainly do.
Wait a
Yeah, if you
minute.
look up Haribo Rock Band,
Rock band.
you'll see.
It's not encouraged by anybody in particular at all, that.
No, I'm sure it isn't.
Oh,
Do you like
Super
Haribo?
mix.
right. I'm sort of right. So
Sorry?
we got the guy with the
Do you like
mask.
Haribo?
Oh, there you are, with your handlebar
Ah,
mustache.
Didn't have quite the beard. At the time,
Oh, 1 minute,
and,
1 minute. I'm gonna have to
I had
screen
yak
share.
hair extensions in the tash.
I'm gonna have to screen share this. Bear with me 1 minute, right? Let me stick this on.
If you pause it carefully, you will notice there is one frame where the Antipoet tattoo
right,
is visible on the screen,
right. So,
and that was very carefully done.
I'll not put the audio on because I don't want to get sort of taken off. So we've got a guy who looks like Goldie from. Right, so there you are here with your handlebar mustache and a big beardy chap there as well, and then. Do you know what?
Yeah.
There's some very expressive acting going on here. You've thrown yourself onto the sofa. All right, there it is. There's the tattoo. Yeah, there's the tattoo. Oh, amazing. Oh, quality. That's so good.
Yeah.
And I've seen the advert as well. There you go.
There you go. The best time I watched that advert was while I was setting up for a rock band gig and a Saturday night pub gig, and I was setting my gear up, putting my amp up, putting my bass on the thing, and there I was on the screen at the back doing the Haribo ad. Yes.
It's similar but not. It's similar
very
but
long.
It's similar but not similar. But there was a band we used to gig with quite a lot. They were really dead on fellas, and one of the guitarists, his missus used to work for Babe Station, and we were playing a gig, and he had she was on the background, and he's like, "There's my missus." It's like what's going on? It's just like it was just like he's playing and
similar enough, actually.
yeah, he's
that'd do it.
You've never done that one, have you?
I haven't done Babe Station.
No, you should. You should totally do Babe
Station.
Don't call me on that one.
yeah.
But there we
Yes.
go.
The night is young, mate.
Wow, that's
Those
mad.
nights are
There you go.
well
The Witcher and Haribo. The Witcher and Haribo. My God, there you go.
Yeah, and a little bit of Doctor Strange as well.
Oh, okay, right.
Oh,
Doctor Strange season 2. There was a tiny little clip.
It was a little blurry, wasn't
It
it?
was a little blurry, yeah, next to old Benedict Cumberbatch, in one of the scenes on top of the temple.
Oh,
Okay.
right. Okay. Right. Wow. Okay.
oh, in the
Two
multiverse
of them I
of
was
madness.
alive, and one of them I was dead.
Was it like in the multiverse of madness with Sam?
It was the second one, yeah.
Yeah. So okay, I want to watch that again.
Yeah. Look out
Yeah,
for you. Yeah.
you really do have to pause it and then zoom in.
Do you get a
It's-
credit,
Well-
or are you just
Oh
nameless?
God, no!
Are you
No,
nameless man?
purely an SA, so purely support artist. So we don't get any credits. You know, even the person that makes the tea in the animation room will get a credit, but supporting artists don't. They don't want us getting ideas above our station. That's the thing.
Well, there's a lot. There's a whole lot of that. The whole the Actors Guild and the SAG. It's different, obviously, in the UK because it's different sort of things. But there's
Right.
It's kind of it has hit the SA world over here quite hard. It's taken half of the work away
Yeah.
because a lot of the productions over here are American.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. They're saying there was a big thing where they're using AI a lot and they were saying that basically they just get one person scan their face and then just use it in perpetuity for the rest of time.
Could I do
that?
Could I do that? And
You can't
then
get them to play the bass. So AI is crap at playing the bass.
could get a hologram there?
Yeah, there you go.
No, Aberdeen.
Here.
Could you not just do that?
You could just
that
in turn
thing, yeah.
you could just get ChatGPT to replace him. So it's both ways. You can both basically it's mutual asserted destruction.
You'd
So
probably come up with stuff that's more relevant as well.
yeah. So I'm just saying, if one of you starts thinking about sort of backstabbing the other one,
Saying that AI replicating things, I mean, they can't do that. They scan you on these things anyway. If you've ever seen Rocket Man, the Elton John thing,
Yeah.
there's there's a big concert he's playing, and there's a lookout over a crowd, and it's a night scene, and there's thousands and thousands of people in the crowd. And it was back in the day when you used to hold a lighter up, and you can see these lighters being held up in the crowd, and there's hundreds of people. Every single one of those is me. The only person on that shoot holding a lighter up.
Wow.
I was at a generative AI conference last week in London, and all I'm gonna say is, did you ever watch Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles?
No,
I haven't yet.
Okay, about 10 years ago, starring Lena Headey and Summer Glau, and basically like Terminator set in the modern day, and they're kind of in this kind of tech fair where all the kind of AI computers being built up. It was just like that. I was kind of sitting there the entire time, and the bite my tongue was shouting out, "Skynet!"
It is kind of scary. It is scary if you think, where we were, even a few years ago and where we are now and what can be done. It's got to the point, like, my work is like very heavily investing in sort of AI and stuff. It's basically, you have to go in that direction for a lot of ways or you're going to get left behind. But yeah, it's scary, I think, more for the artistic side of things, because there's a lot of people who are getting slightly annoyed. I think George R.R. Martin sort of had a big thing where they steal, because it has to learn from somewhere, and it learns from taking other people's work, so it's effectively plagiarizing and stuff, because you will get parts. And they made a point, it was some artwork, I think it was what's it called? What's the art one? Not Midwinter.
Midjourney.
Midjourney, yeah. Midjourney, Midwinter's a miniature painter. But anyway, Midjourney, and they basically got all these art pieces, but you could tell that some of them had still got the watermarks on them from where they'd got the actual pieces, and they'd just sort of been kind of blurred out and stuff. So yeah, it's scary times. It's exciting because I like the whole idea of sort of advancement of the human race and AI and tech and things like that, but it's scary in that it is, what it can do now is just pretty bonkers.
I'm not convinced it's going to raise the art element, the artistic community, on the grounds that it's only ever the art from AI is only ever generated from what has been. It's very backwards looking. It's retrospective. Anything we create as humans is something, because we create it from afresh with new ideas. That's going to be new, and that's something that AI at the moment cannot do. Like, for example, you'll rarely have AI journalists, because news by its very definition is new. Again, you report about something that is happening. Unless you're doing a retrospective like 25 years later of Battlestar Galactica, you're not going to really need AI journalists, because it's the information that will be generated from is not out there yet. Yeah,
it doesn't have the feeling for it as well, because like
the emotionality.
Yeah, there isn't, because I use it to help write for, like, we do a D&D campaign on Thursday nights, and I use it as a sort of basis for. I'll fire in some ideas and it'll come out with something, but you could never just use it verbatim, because it's very sort of kind of matter of fact, and there's zero and it's very, very bland. So you have to sort of kind of extrapolate and sort of use it. So it's a good for a foundation, but you can't use it for any creative. I don't think you could use it for creative writing, because I don't think it has that emotionality, or it doesn't have that nuance.
The texture.
The texture. Yeah. But
so as a question for you, as a current D&D player, what did you think of the recent movie?
Some of that was filmed in where there's a place called Carrickfergus Castle, where down the road from where I was from. It was filmed. Some of it's filmed there. The main castle at the end, that's where that's filmed. But I actually quite liked it. I quite liked that. It was enjoyable. It was a million times better than the old D&D movie that came out in sort of, I can't even remember what year it came out, but that was atrocious. But
1990s.
I thought it was really good. I liked the little nod to the D&D cartoon. The Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I'd see it again, and it had a lot of nods to actual the game itself, even down to sort of kind of field roles and things being slightly absurd and just stuff like that. And so, yeah.
I want them to do a sequel using the exact same cast but playing completely different characters.
That would be interesting. That would be
Because
that would be a
it's
good,
like completely said back.
sure.
Yeah, they're playing all new characters now.
Yeah.
And just go to this.
The bit I most loved that was how fed up they were at the Paladin.
Oh, yes, the Paladin.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, you have no idea what.
No idea.
Yeah, the Paladin, he was amazing. It was just so righteous and just floating on water, and he just it was quality. Paladins are always a problem. Like, we've had 2 Paladins in our party, and both of them have rocked the boat, in different ways and stuff like that. But it's always good to have something like that. There's an interesting bit, the part where I can't remember the name of the actor. I'm really bad with names, but the bit where he's walking off and he sort of kind of just walks over the stone, that's not actually scripted. That wasn't actually scripted. Apparently they just told him to keep on walking and they'll let him know when to stop, and because they thought it was really funny, they just let him carry on, and he just sort of kind of went over the stone and went on and stuff. And that was good.
That's one of my favourite bits of it.
Yeah, so good. Yeah,
we're talking Dungeons and Dragons, aren't we?
We are talking Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Yeah. The movie.
It's got American people in it.
The only thing I know about the Dungeons and Dragons, we used to do a gig in St Albans. Remember that one at the Goat?
Yeah.
We used to do a shouty, sweary poetry night on one end of the pub, and at the other end of the pub, within our sight line, was the local Dungeons and Dragons club.
They were playing a card version of it.
And we did it on the same night. And they used to get annoyed that we were getting too loud, so they would try and get louder with their games. And it all got very childish, didn't it?
But they did make it into one of our poems. Yeah. Everything that we've experienced has been a fantastic source of material. That's
what it is. That's the whole creative process. Like, you see something and it just inspires you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And another part of that, during the whole lockdown, slightly before lockdown, we realized that it was time we were going to have to put a new collection together for the next year's show. And I'll sit and write a whole new set. And I'd only done, I think, 2. You hadn't even seen those at that point to put your parts to it when we got locked down. And I thought, well, this is great because I haven't got to do anything else. I can just sit here and do these. I'll knock out 2 albums in the space of 1 here. This would be great. And I couldn't do it because I needed the audience in front of me to make it work. And the stuff comes from watching the audience and listening to their comments and thinking, what else could I say to these people that's going to make them think or laugh? And so I didn't write anything through the whole of that lockdown on that front. I was doing books instead. But when we finally got out, we did the next gig. Bang, 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 bang. It all comes out. But it was being inspired by the people that come to see us and the stuff around you. When you take all the stuff around you away, there's nothing to write about. The
stuff that we do is definitely not page poetry. It's so much of it is tied up in the performance. In the way we've done 8 albums now, we tried to do a faithful reproduction of our live set, which is the 2 of us, maybe a triangle and a bit of kazoo in there occasionally, double bass, bit of quipping back and forth, some BVs and what have you, but nothing else. And we did that on our second album, and we listened back to it and thought, that's really dull. It just doesn't do justice to what it's like when you're in the live environment and when you've got the people there. So from that point on, we actually add a lot more to our albums. So the listening experience of our albums is, I wouldn't say completely different, but it's a very different experience than seeing us live.
It sounds very situational.
Sorry?
Sounds very situational, as in you have to be there almost to experience it fully, like the full 5 senses.
Really?
To get the nuances of what we're doing, there's a lot of it is expressions and kind of winks, nods to the audience, that sort of thing.
I think the main difference between the recorded CD stuff and the live performance is that if you want to know what I'm talking about, listen to the CD, because I won't get it right when we do it live. It's unlikely that it's going to follow.
If you want to know what it's supposed to be,
listen to the CD. Yeah.
If you want to know what it's about, come and see us live, because you'll get the patter beforehand and the explanations and the experience shared. We can get a lot. We can get away with doing a lot more when we're in a live environment, because we can put things in context.
Yeah, different energy.
Sometimes
different
without.
Completely different energy. Yeah. Yeah, which is not to say that the albums aren't good, because I think they've. I think we've done a very good job of them, because if there's a third member of the group, the third member of this duo, then it's our drummer and producer who puts all our albums together and puts all the sound effects and the other instruments on and builds it up and makes it something worth buying.
What we're doing with AI, actually.
No, we couldn't do that with AI.
No, he's absolutely amazing. He knows plugins like the back of your hand, and can just say, okay, I'm going to have a jingly jangly piano in this bit. And after one of the albums, I said, mate, can you play that? He said, no. I just got the computer to do it. Got the robot to do it. And he does that with everything from a full Wurlitzer organ to a banjo to anything.
He does occasionally get somebody in, but not usually. He does it all himself. Yeah. What he can't play, he does it on the machine.
On one of the last ones, one of the last tracks on the last album, there's a little piece which is a nod to Dixon of Dock Green, and the theme tune for that, which would probably go over most people's head. Back in the black, when the world was black and white. So it's played on a harmonica. Neither of us can play harmonica. So on the album there is a bit which faithfully does that riff on harmonica, and it's played on a Line 6 guitar.
Wow.
By me using a harmonica sound emulator.
Wow.
Absolutely incredible.
And then live it's played on a double bass.
And live it's played on double bass.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
And it works. It does work.
Yeah, it's all good.
Oh, wow. Right. Well, have you, before we go, do you have anything coming out at the minute? Have you got any gigs coming up? Have you got anything you want to sort of kind of pimp out?
As far as the Antipoet is concerned, we're kind of in the writing phase at the moment.
Yeah, we're just about to start putting album number 9 together, and we're doing a vinyl for the steampunk market, which is on a 10-inch vinyl, but it will look like a 78, so it looks really impressive. That's a matter we're writing, and not far off recording that stuff.
But all of our back catalogue can be, well, nearly all of the back catalogue, apart from the first one, which is a bit dodge, can you have to come and see us to get any of those first album pieces. But that's available on Bandcamp, which is the place where everybody should be selling their original music, because you get most of the money from it. So if you go onto Bandcamp, spell it as it sounds, bandcamp.com, look up the Antipoet. You can get everything. You can order CDs. You can get digital downloads, single tracks, multi-tracks, albums, the whole shebang.
What we got gig-wise coming up, though?
I don't think not much, actually, mate. The book launch.
Oh, the book launch is probably the next thing. Yeah. We're the fourth book in my steampunk series, the Periwinkle Perspective.
Right.
Okay.
This is the audio version of
nice.
Wow, CDs. One. Wow, nice.
Read by Davros. Read by Terry Malloy. The fourth book in this series comes out on the 7th of November, and we're doing a big old launch at Waterstones in Milton Keynes, 7 o'clock. It's a Tuesday night. Anybody who wants to come to that, look up Waterstones Eventbrite for free tickets. And we will be gigging there, because we always do, don't we?
Yeah,
nice. And that'd be good. There will be other gigs keep an eye on our. Do we have a website anymore?
We do have a website. We still have a website.
Keep an eye on our website.
Loads of our performance videos and stuff on our website, theantipoet.co.uk.
Because we've done all of the big festivals that we're doing this year, but there will be other gigs that crop up. We'll take anything really.
We've got a Donna Ray on Facebook says the Antipoet are on.
Donna, that's our manager.
Yeah, your manager.
Yeah, always go through Donna.
Yeah, are on
Donna knows what we're doing.
On a scribble gathering on the 12th of December and 7th of November.
Oh, Scribble, yeah. Scribble gathering.
Scribble, that's it. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's us. It's in, yeah. You should have it.
So Scribble gathering on the 12th of December. And Waterstones on
that's
the...
near Milton Keynes. That's
I'll stick that in.
Stratford. Yeah, write that in your diary, mate.
Yeah.
That's a headline.
12th of December, 7th of November, Waterstones, Milton Keynes for Paul's new book.
Yeah, but ask Donna. She's the best person to ask for gigs. Where is she?
Thanks, Donna. She's
upstairs.
She's in internet land somewhere.
She's upstairs listening to this or watching this, and when this is finished,
she says useless, both of you! !
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get telling off for some of the things we've said. Yeah.
It works.
We apologise for nothing.
There you go.
Thank you for having us.
No, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure. By all means, if you've got anything else coming up, or you just want to have a chat about something, but by all means, come back on. If you've got any more TV cameos and/or film cameos there, Ian, then let us know. Cats as well. We're all about cats as well. There you go. We like cats.
There's a cat's ass. Turn around.
That's right. I've had them run out every now and again because my dog always picks the worst times to want to go in and out of the house. But yeah, so it's been an absolute pleasure, chaps. It's been really interesting. Good luck with everything. Good luck with your gigs, and the poetry. And the writing and everything that you do. You've got many feathers to the proverbial cap. So it's been quality. So for tonight, I've been Matt Geary. With me has been Peter Ray Allison.
Good night, everyone.
And our special guests, Ian and Paul.
And the cat.
And the cats from the Antipoet. Night, everybody. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.